And we are live. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well, that you had a nice Easter weekend, that you had a nice beginning of the week, and all that. We are back here to talk about the conference on the future of Europe. So, this process, the consultation process at EU level to try to see what citizens think about the EU, how it should evolve. So, last week we started to look at what the citizen panel, so these groups of citizens tasked with, let's say, brainstorming on given topics and provide recommendation to the EU. So last week we covered the first panel, and this week we're gonna do the second one. There's 4 of them, so we're gonna try to cover them all before the 9th of May. So the second panel that we're going to comment tonight is on the topic of European democracy, values and rights, rule of law and security. So interesting stuff in front of us. Small reminder, so these panels, sorry, I'm going to go on the right one. There you go. Which one is it? There you go. So these panels are composed of about 200 citizens each, randomly selected, even if there is about a third of the 200 citizens that must be young people, so between 16 and 25, if I'm not mistaken on the actual thing. Yeah, 16, 25. And so these people, these 200 people, I'm gonna just adjust that for a bit, that way you can see the entire thing much better. So they're brainstorming about the topic with experts, with resources, and ultimately they make recommendations that the Conference on Future of Europe will take on board or not, and then it goes to the EU itself that will follow through on them or not. So what are we going to do? We are going to look at each of the recommendations that they're making, comment them if any, see if it's doable or not, and me, I will try to stay neutral. Intermediary will be my conscience. She will prevent me from dunking too hard on the proposal. So she will be like the little angel on my. Is it on the right shoulder or the left shoulder? I always forget. So one of the two, and she will stop me from dunking too hard or going into full depression. Anyway, without further ado, let's start. I don't know how long it would last. To be honest, last time I thought it was going to be quick. I thought, naive that I thought we were going to be able to cover all 4 in one evening. In the end, we just covered 1. It lasted 3 hours and a half. So tonight I said, okay, we're just gonna cover panel number 2. We'll see how long it lasts. It's gonna be fine. You can be worse than me depending on the topic. Well, we'll see. I mean, there's nothing on agriculture, so it should be fine. Tonight we are into institutional stuff. So I think I'm gonna be trying to be constructive if I can, and not dunk too much. Anyway, let's start. So. The first stream, because each citizens panel has let's say priority, sub working groups, etc. So first one, ensuring rights and non-discrimination. So non-discrimination, gender equality. I don't get why they did. I mean, what's the point of making like sub streams to see if then you group them together? Either you make a 1.1 and then only non-discrimination, and then 1.2 only gender equality, or just make a single point with both of them. But anyway, let's not get into this. So we recommend that the EU provides criteria on anti-discrimination in the labor market, quota for youth, elders, women, minorities. If companies fulfill the criteria, they get subsidies or tax breaks. We recommend enhancing employees' awareness about supranational and national institutions, for example, trade unions. So imagine that through trade unions, they want to increase awareness. Okay. Mechanism which ensure companies respect existing rules on non-discrimination in the workplace. Qualification programs for social groups that suffer discrimination in the job market. Youth, elder, women's, minorities. Okay, we recommend the adoption of... Sorry, as usual, I'm choking when reading this stuff, recommend the adoption of a two-stage EU law. First, provide subsidies to hire employees from certain categories susceptible to discrimination. Second, the law should oblige employers to employ such groups for a minimum period. So, a lot to unpack there. Oh no, I'm trying to be constructive. It's just something passed my mind. I'm not going to dunk on the whole process just because they put together non-discrimination and gender equality. But a lot to unpack. So what do we have here? So anti-discrimination sounds pretty much on track with the values of the EU. That there is the charter, the European Charter for Fundamental Rights, that is, let's say, I want to say constitutional value in the EU, but almost it's guaranteed by the treaties, and so all the EU laws must and member states must respect it. If companies fulfill the criteria, they get subsidies or tax break. That could turn pretty. I mean, I see where they're going with that. That would be very expensive because I mean, I think we can agree that in principle, every company, every administration should not do any kind of discrimination. So ultimately, everyone should get these subsidies or tax breaks. So that sounds like a very expensive as an idea, but okay, I see. NC employees awareness about supranational national institution. That's the thing I'm not necessarily understanding very well, because employees, why would employees would need to know particularly about supranational and national institutions? And how do trade unions qualify as national institutions or supranational institutions? So that's that part I don't really get. Mechanism which ensure companies respect existing rules on discrimination in the workplace. That sounds pretty like standard under the duty of like any member state to ensure that the law is applied and all that. So nothing fancy there. Qualification program for social groups that suffer discrimination in the job market. Also something that sounds pretty doable. Yeah, I can imagine that they. I would be surprised if there wasn't already like programs that could help for this. So this okay, nothing to dunk on. That's fine. That's fine by me. I don't see red flags. European Association or international organization. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what they mean by that. So I'll put a question mark. So, two-stage EU law. First, provide subsidies to hire employees from certain categories susceptible to discrimination. So that's what's the word in English? In French, it's discrimination positive. It's shit. I have it on the tip on my tongue. But yeah, it's the idea that you positively discriminate, affirmative action. I think that's the word. So the fact that you actively hire a category of population that is subject to discrimination to correct an imbalance. Again, something that is going to be pretty expensive. Then, I mean, as usual for this kind of stuff, there would be like constitutional questions on the idea of equality of between people, etc. And especially like here, oblige employers to employ such groups for a minimum period, which I mean sounds odd. Like for a minimum period, meaning that you hire someone for 6 months, you hire someone and you can't fire the person for 6 months. I mean, that's kind of weird. To either that means that you can't fire them for before 6 months, or you're supposed to give them at least a contract of 1 year or 2 years or whatever. I don't really get that. That sounds a bit odd. But well. So this is because he is responsible for maintaining balance between free market interest and protection of vulnerable categories, which should be legally safeguarded. Heterogeneous groups are desirable for companies as they offer diverse qualifications. Careful, because heterogeneous groups, when it comes to groups susceptible to discrimination, does not mean diverse qualifications. They're missing two things, even if you could make an argument between when it comes to elders to an extent. Subsidies are an additional incentive to be provided to companies. Okay, pretty straightforward. Second one, we recommend that the EU creates an incentive program that facilitates the creation of affordable kindergartens and playgrounds in big and small companies. Shared facilities are also a viable option for smaller firms to get the subsidies. We recommend the EU forces companies to create kindergartens in a manner proportional to the number of employees. Okay, that's intense, but okay, why not? Why not? I can see why they put it under like the gender equality and then all that. Okay. Not sure about the doability of EU specifically doing that. But okay. Let's play ball on this. Recommend this because uniting family life and professional life improves job performance. Okay, reduce unemployment. Yes, brings parents, especially women, in a situation that enables them to continue their career. Okay. Stressing the social dimension, the proposed solutions guarantees the safety of children and reduce parental anxieties. I mean, on the substance, it all makes sense. Then it's just a matter of... I mean, for a number of these things, my big question mark is like, is that the job of the EU? Is the EU supposed to intervene on that? So you can say, yeah, the EU can make like a general law to let's say, make it mandatory for member states to do these kind of things, but... I mean, I'm trying to think, but yeah, I mean, yeah, that's doable because we do have directive or regulations, like for instance on parental leave, that sort of thing. So yeah, okay, why not? Why not? Okay, substream number 3, protecting human rights and the rights of nature and animals. We recommend to safeguard animals' well-being and sustainability in farming by amending Directive 98. Blah 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 concerning the protection of animals kept for farming purposes. More detailed criteria must be defined. Should be specific, measurable, and time-bound. Okay, minimum criteria should be set in a way that leads to higher animal well-being standard and at the time enable the transition toward the climate and environmental sustainability and ecological agriculture. We as citizens believe that it's important to have strong minimum standards. Okay, blah blah blah. We are aware that the transition might pose problems in some agricultural sector, but they benefit from subsidies. And for those, I'm mixing a word there. And for those are in transition that are probably to those that are in transition to ecological and sustainable farming. However, we find it very important to ensure that this transition happens. Okay. Animal welfare update is already in the works. Okay. So I know that there's quite a lot of work being done on that indeed, because in Parliament there was a committee, a special committee for animal welfare, but specifically in context of transport. So what happened, the rules that are applicable, so to when you transport live animals around, like for instance from the when you're taking them to be slaughtered, you have to, or to from one place to another, you have to respect rules. So there's already there was something on that. So but indeed there is concerns about animal welfare around. You think it's still there, the EP committee? I wasn't sure, because I think one of the guests that we had, I think it's Caroline Rose, so French Green, and I think there was another Green. I think it was Caroline Rose on the French side. I think she was saying that it was done. Actually, we can check directly. European Parliament ANIT committee. ANIT outcome. God damn it. On January 2022, Parliament adopted the final recommendation on the investigation of violent contravention, blah blah blah. So it's done. It finished in January. So there's a report, there's a press release, and all that. So it's not like legislation or anything. It's a committee of inquiry. Okay. Going back there. Let's see. Next one. Sorry, I was pausing. I was trying to start anything, but why are we talking about animals? But yeah, it's about rights in general. So okay. We recommend to promote more environment and climate-friendly agriculture in Europe and worldwide by taxing all negative emissions, pesticide, and extreme use of water based on their environmental burden. Custom duties on all agricultural goods that are imported into the EU must eliminate competitive advantage of third countries without the same standards as the EU. To promote animal welfare agriculture, we recommend that emissions caused by long-range transport of animals should be taxed. So, this, it's already in the works, or at least it's actively being discussed. This is the what's the exact? It's not the mirror clauses. It's the carbon adjustment mechanism. So that's exactly that. The idea that it's not only for agricultural goods, so it's for any goods when they arrive. The idea is when they arrive in the EU, you tax them according to the level of according to the level of carbon emission that were necessary. And the idea is to create a level playing field. The idea is that oh well, in the EU, our companies needs to respect a number of rules and to use as little carbon emission as possible. And so in the other countries that do not have these rules, that do not apply such things, then by taxing them, you avoid this kind of ecological, economic dumping. Agriculture is not in the proposal, only fertilizers are. Okay. It's not in it. Okay. Because I know that there is steel. Steel is in it, but agriculture as a whole is not in it. Interesting, because I would have thought that that agriculture would have they would have been calls to include include agriculture in this for carbon at least. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So here, taxing all negative emissions, pesticides, and extreme use of water based on the environmental burden. So here, I don't think there is anything existing on that apart from like the carbon emission system that already exists. It has been existing for a while. But for pesticides and extreme use of water, I don't have anything that coming to mind. There is discussion for other standards, for instance, pesticides. Okay. Okay, so on that, I don't know. And promote animal-friendly agriculture, recommend the emission caused by long-range transport of animals should be taxed. I guess it's pretty much the same thing as that. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was something in this committee about this. Okay, let's see the next one. In the actual context of many fake news, we recommend to promote more independent, objective, and balanced media coverage by developing at EU level a minimum standard directive for media independence, promoting at EU level the development of media competence for every citizen. So, on this, there is already a directive called the AVMS directive, which is the audiovisual media services directive, with an authority that is specifically so-called ERGA, that is specifically to monitor the audiovisual media and notably their independence. And there is in the work another legislation called the Media Freedom Act. I don't recall what's exactly in it, but I would not be surprised at all if it was in the Media Freedom Act. European Media Freedom Act. Okay, let's see. Launch public consultation. Okay. Let's see. Safeguard pluralism, independence of the media in the EU internal market. So, okay, that sounds pretty much like something that is in the work at EU level, and so they are at the stage of the public consultation. Public consultation is like the very, like, say, first stages where the commission is taking feedback from everyone. Technically, you and I, we could answer, but in practice, it's mostly lobbies of all kind that basically centralize all what they think about the initiative, where it should go, that sort of thing. And so then the commission use that to help themselves build and usually confirm what they were already thinking on the initiative itself. So so you see, in this case, they received 1,470 feedback. Let's see, public consultation. So that's for what? That's for the call for evidence. Okay. Oh, we just missed it. It was closed on the 25th. Public consultation, that's the same. Okay. So all that to say that there is something in the work. No, this one. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to close that. Sorry, all that to say that there is something to being done on that. And on media competence, so that's what we call media literacy. There's a bunch of initiatives like to encourage media literacy, etc., etc. So that's a pretty standard kind of wording, I would say, there. Okay. You must produce a directive to ensure independence of media and freedom of free speech. Okay, it's in the work. So Commission will do a self-5 on this one. We are going to stop subsidizing agricultural mass production if it does not lead to a transition toward climate, environmentally sustainable and ecological agriculture. Instead, we recommend to redirect subsidies to support a sustainable transition. Little Miss Derry, should I let you dunk on this, or you can hold yourself? So instead of subsidizing the agricultural sector of mass farming, the subsidies should be redirected to farms that are in transition to comply with the new minimum standard for animal welfare. So this links back to the old... You thought it was not going to be on agriculture? Me too. I didn't think it was going to be on agriculture, but you know, like citizens, they do what they want, so sometimes they decide, oh well, we're gonna do whatever we want, so... It's about fundamental rights, so fundamental rights cover environment and all that, so whatever. So yeah, here it relates to the CAP, so the Common Agriculture Policy, and all the debates about the subsidies. Are the subsidies green enough or not? We had 2 streams on the topic already in French, one in favor, one against. So if you're French speaking, I encourage you to go watch these interviews. They were quite interesting. But yeah, basically there's been debates about that for a while, and the EU has already started to try to make its policy a bit more green by reserving a number of funding for, let's say, a greening, agriculture that is a bit more environmental friendly. And then, of course, you have those that say that it's not enough green, and etc., etc. Let's see. I'm sure that the EU farmers would be happy if subsidies go, and then if we see production stay in Europe independently, if they are considered sustainable or not. Okay, I'm missing a bit. You'd be happy. Why would EU farmers be happy if subsidies go? Rather the contrary. I mean, it's a heavily subsidized sector. FDC production stay in Europe independently if they are considered sustainable or not. Okay, on this one I don't get what you mean. But so you're on your phone. Okay, no problem. So yeah. Greening of the CAP, ongoing debate. Yeah, men not happy. Okay, that makes no sense. More sense indeed. So yeah, the greening of the CAP, big debates. MEPs have been tearing each other apart. The Commission has been tearing itself apart about that. So I will put that into the in the work kind of category. Right to privacy. Recommend that the entities that process personal data should be licensed at EU level. These entities shall also be subject to independent external annual data protection audits. These entities shall be punished for data protection violation proportionate to their annual turnover in a stricter way than under the current regulations. The license should be lifted after 2 consecutive violations and immediately after a serious violation. I recommend all this because current regulations, GDPR, are not sufficient, and entities need to be better monitored and sanctions to make sure they do not violate data protection and the right to privacy. And a quick tap on your phone, so it's difficult for you to angry dunk on this. See, it's for your own good. All this is for your own good. So coming back to this, so GDPR, I think GDPR is not doing enough. Again, like it rejoins the some of the proposal that they made, that another panel made on the topic, where they didn't wanted a sort of a license, but they wanted a sort of certificate. So pretty much the same thing as last week. But yeah, then there is the question of how doable is this? Because if you need to license entities, so entities that process personal data, it's any website, it's any company, anything. So like the sheer amount of entities that would require license is insane. Is properly insane. And then okay, they need to have annual data protection audits. Again, question of whether it's burdensome and useful, especially if they do that every year. Shall be punished for data protection violation proportionally to their annual turnover. I mean, already under GDPR, they are subject to fines up to 4% of their worldwide turnover, and also a fixed fee depending on whichever is higher. A fine, sorry, whichever is higher. But okay, they want to get tougher on GDPR. Definitely a current debate, even if at the moment the main issue is about the GDPR authorities themselves, so the data protection authorities at national level. But okay, they want to toughen up GDPR. We recommend strengthening the EU competence in finally some institutional stuff. In data protection education. What? Data protection, raising awareness, and 3, protecting personal data of minors. What? I mean, that's a part I understand, but for the rest, what? Recommend providing clearer and stricter rules about processing of data minor in the GDPR, including consent rules, age verification, and control by legal guardians. We also recommend to introduce in the GDPR a special category for sensitive minors data, criminal records, health information, nudity, so that minors are protected from any form of abuses and discrimination. Okay, so strengthening the competence in data protection education and data protection raising awareness. So I don't know what's the difference between data protection education and data protection raising awareness, for starters. But okay, why not? People should know more about GDPR, I guess. Protecting personal data of minors. So that indeed is something there, and there is work being done to an extent in the DSS, or the Digital Services Act, where there is something about advertising. It's more about advertising, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's some stuff being done. So they want to, again, they basically want to reopen GDPR in there. That's the thing. So consent rules, age verification, and control by legal guardians. Again, careful what you wish for, because that means that any minor, then, like, if there needs to be verification and control by legal guardians, that whatever a minor is doing online, there needs to be checked and approved by the parents or whatever legal guardian. So a bit burdensome, I'd say, potentially. And sensitive minors data. So, I mean, technically, criminal records, health information, and nudity, that's the kind, I mean, nudity is not really a kind of data, but in any case, criminal record and health information, whatever the age of the person, this is sensitive information. Bottom line. So you can bet that whether you're an adult, a young, an elder or not, criminal record and health information, that's already considered sensitive information, and people can't, like, that's not something you can mess with easily with. As for nudity, well, I mean, yeah, okay, why not? Although I don't know what GDPR has to do specifically with it, but well, okay. because like minor nudity, that's a crime. I mean, if you exploitation, I mean, of minor nudity, that's a crime. But yeah. Okay, this compensation is needed because minors are especially vulnerable to data protection and privacy violation. That's true, and currently there is no sufficient data protection awareness among the general population, especially minors, teachers, and legal guardians. Okay. They will need to learn how to use online and offline data-related services and how to protect children's privacy rights. Moreover, legal guardians may consent to the processing of children's data without being fully aware or informed, and children may fake parental consent. Last but not least, communication is needed because a proper EU-wide data protection awareness campaign targeting specific minor legal guardians and teachers does not exist despite its crucial importance. Okay, I see where they're going, but again, like that's I don't want to say the issue. Just is that something that really needs like EU level? Because done by the EU, where is it? Because EU-wide data protection awareness campaign, okay, that's mostly the job of member states there. But well, okay, I see what I see. Like they want to put the emphasis on minor protection when it comes to data protection. So okay, that's fine. Let's leave it at that. And again, I'm wondering like here if I'm pretty sure here it's already protected under GDPR. And there is actually debate, a number of debates around data protection and privacy in general because of minor protection. What we've seen, like for instance, in terms of what the opponents to it called chat control. So the idea that to fight against pedopornography and minor abuses and that sort of thing, that authorities and phone companies, phone companies should in a way leave a door open, like into the chats, into the WhatsApp groups and all that, to make sure that someone can check that the content that is shared there is not pedopornography and all that. And so there was a huge pushback from the privacy organization that say no, because if you open back doors, then it can be misused, and then that means that it can be misused also by state who can spy on people who are not minors, who don't do anything wrong. There is a presumption of culpability, blah blah blah. What about consent, etc., etc. So there's a big fight around minor protection, and on the one end, and on the other end, data privacy, and it's been bleeding out in a number of EU legislation. 9. We recommend introducing standardized privacy policies and easily understandable, concise, and user-friendly consent form that clearly indicate what data processing is strictly necessary and what is optional. Okay, we recommend that removing consent should be easy, fast, and permanent. We recommend forbidding entities to limit their service more than necessary if there is no consent to optional data processing. Okay, that's the infamous cookie wars. And a reference somewhere to dark pattern, something that we already discussed, that was already in another proposal from the last panel. So the idea that users can be manipulated in a way to give consents to the use of their data, even if they don't necessarily want to, etc., etc. So it's a bit about that. So nothing to say here that is no criticism, no dunking. There is a bit of that into the DSA and the DMS, or Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act. So yeah, I will put that into the ongoing case, I would say, to an extent, at least for the dark pattern part. Protecting democracy and the rule of law. Okay, here comes the fun. So, first, protecting the rule of law. We recommend that the conditionality regulation adopted on December 2020 is amended so that it applies to all breaches of the rule of law rather than only the breaches that affected the EU budget. Okay. So first we're going to read the justification, and then we're going to dive into it. The conditionality regulation allows for the suspension of EU funds to member states breaching the rule of law. However, under the current formation, it only applies to breaches that affect or risk affecting the EU budget. Furthermore, the current phrasing of the conditionality regulation is self-protective of the EU budget and of the EU institution rather than the citizens of the member state concerned. Therefore, we recommend charging the current text of the regulation so they cover all violations of law. Okay, so what is this? For those of you who follow my news review, you will be very much familiar with the mechanism, the conditional regulation on the rule of law, which is a new budget tool. My favorite topic indeed, our favorite topic to everyone, which is a new toy that the Commission has to, when there are threats to the rule of law in a country, in a member state, that could have an impact on the budget, then the Commission can decide to suspend the EU funds in question. So the poster child of this are obviously Hungary and Poland, and the example taken is, let's say that you have a country that does not have independent judiciary, completely independent judiciary system, so that could have indirectly an impact on EU fundings. Why? Because if there is misuse, you cannot rely on the national judicial system to correct the situation, and so ultimately it favors the misuse of EU money. And so the EU could say, well, in this case, as long as the independence of the justice is not ensured, then we will suspend a number of EU funds so that there is no chance for them to being misused. This was a big issue. Poland and Hungary sued the Commission and the Council over that. They said the tool was illegal. They tried to strike it down, by the Court of Justice of the European Union. In January of this year, the Court of Justice said, no, screw you, the mechanism is legal. And specifically for the reasons that are a bit contradictory to what they say. So what they want is to extend this mechanism to all kind of breaches affecting rule of law. Any kind of breaches to rule of law, and not something only related to budget, and also to switch the focus from the protection of the EU institution and the EU budget to the protection of the rule of law. Which is actually the very reason why the Court of Justice considered the tool legal in the first place. Why? Because Poland and Hungary, when the Commission came up with it, and when they sued the Council and the Commission, they said, well, actually, this tool, it goes over the power of the Commission, and is trying to circumvent the existing tool again to deal with the rule of law, which is the so-called Article 7. So the Article 7 allows the Council to suspend, or at least to sanction and ultimately to suspend the voting rights of member states that do not respect the rule of law. So that's the mechanism. And this Article 7 requires unanimity, minus the country that is concerned. Problem is that Article 7 is neutralized because we are in the case where we have two countries that are posing problem, Poland and Hungary. So whenever there is an Article 7 on Poland, Hungary is putting his veto, and whenever it's about Hungary, Poland puts the veto. So Article 7 is being neutralized. And so Poland and Hungary are saying, well, this new conditionality mechanism, it's meant to circumvent Article 7. So it goes beyond the budget. It's not respecting the law. The Commission should not be allowed to do that, etc., etc. The Court of Justice rejected the argument by saying that no, the tool is legal because it is actually, and it's proportionate, because it is targeting very specific breaches of the rule of law, and specifically those that affect the EU budget. And for things that affect the EU budget, then the Commission is legitimate and it's legal for it to act and protect the EU budget, because it's the guardian of the treaty, and it's supposed to ensure that the EU funds are properly used. So, and that was the entire strategy of the Commission and the supporting Parliament and supportive member states, is to direct the entire mechanism around the budget. Is that it's not a tool on the rule of law in their arguments, at least legal arguments. It's a tool about protecting the budget, and protecting the budget makes it then acceptable for the Commission to take the initiative and then to act on the basis of a qualified majority, because to suspend the EU funds, the Commission in this case does not need unanimity. It needs a qualified majority, meaning that instead of needing 26 member states approving the thing, it only needs 15 and representing 65% of the population, meaning that it's much easier to put the problematic countries in a minority, and so to be able to act. So by doing that, well, I see where they're going with this. The citizens, they want basically they want to replace Article 7 with this to an extent, or to enrich Article 7 with this. Problem is that the argument that they're putting forward are the very arguments that the things that they criticize in the current system are the very things that make it legal, actually, and possible for the Commission to do so. So yeah, long story short, they want to strengthen in a way the mechanism, but that would make it legally shaky, and that would actually, but actually they said they're giving reason. I mean, they're validating the arguments of Hungary and Poland against the existing tool. Anyway, and I would put that under existing or in the works, because we have an existing regulation. Anyway, moving on. We recommend that the EU organize annual conferences on the rule of law, following the publication of the annual rule of law report. Commission mechanism for monitoring compliance with the rule of law by the member states. Okay. Member states should be obligated to send socially diverse national delegation to the conference that include both citizens and civil servants. Okay, first part I get, second part I don't necessarily understand, but okay, let's see the explanation. This conference would foster dialogue among EU citizens on rule of law issues, as well as a dialogue between citizens and experts drafting the annual rule of law report. I mean, okay. I thought for a second they were saying that citizens are writing the rule of law report. No, citizens on one, and the experts that write the report. Okay. With that, that's for mutual appreciation and sharing, the participants can take best practices and ideas back to their home countries. Furthermore, the conference will bring awareness and understanding to the principle of rule of law and to the findings and process behind the annual rule of law report. Would also capture the attention of media. I was asked to allow citizens to share their experience and compare them against the findings of the report. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. It's basically like a communication exercise. The Commission should do a bigger communication exercise around the rule of law report. Fine. Nothing special to say about this. Protecting and strengthening democracy, media, and disinformation. We recommend that the EU enforces its competition rule in the media sector more strictly to ensure that media pluralism is protected in all member states. The EU should prevent large media monopolies and political appointment processes for media and outlet boards. We also recommend that the upcoming EU Media Freedom Act, that we discussed earlier, entails rules on preventing politicians from owning media outlets or having a strong influence on their content. Currently, before enforcing EU competition rules foster a pluralistic media landscape where citizens have a choice. Since the Commission is currently the European law, Media Freedom Act, for the integrity of the media market, this law should also reflect that media outlets should not be owned or influenced by politicians. Sorry, it's the whole question of the concentration of media. So the fact that media ownership is concentrated in a limited number of hands and sometimes also politicians. So, for instance, I mean, France, for instance, has a big, a high level of media concentration, even if it's not owned directly by politicians. In Hungary, again, the media are not owned by the government, but there is definitely a number of very friendly people to the government that are in charge of a number of private media. So it's a matter of limiting media dependence and that sort of thing. So pretty straightforward again. Nothing special to comment or to add there. It's cover. I mean, it's about to deal with the issues with a number of countries about media concentration. So pretty straightforward. We recommend the EU institution to play a stronger role with all the tools at their disposal, including national centers for cybersecurity and the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, so ENISA, to protect individuals, organizations, and institutions against new threats coming from cybersecurity breaches and the use of artificial intelligence for criminal purposes. We further recommend that the directive coming from Europe and its agencies are correctly implemented and disseminated in all member states. I mean, again, in principle, if it's a directive, all member states are supposed to respect it. So, to begin with, I mean, I understand what they mean. That you should you should make sure that there is proper enforcement, etc. But in principle, that's how it should be. You make laws so that they're supposed to be applied. Okay. Recommend this because citizens feel helpless and are not aware of what is done by the European Union to combat these threats. Recommend this because these threats are a serious national and European security concerns. Recommend this because Europe should be a true innovator in the field. Okay, not very developed. Let's read again. New threats. Okay, so it's rather general, like up your game in cybersecurity and that's it. So okay, and there is work definitely being done at the moment on cybersecurity. Recommend that in its relationship with external countries, the European Union should first strengthen common democratic values in its borders. Recommend that only after achieving this, the European Union can be an ambassador of a democratic model in the countries that are ready and willing to implement it through diplomacy and dialogue. Recommend this because we have to look inwards before looking outwards, because Europe can and should support member states to strengthen the democracy, because it's also by leading by example and supporting external countries' efforts towards democracy that we can protect ourselves. That's an extremely slippery slope there. Because the typical arguments, like whenever the EU member state is saying something about China, about Russia, the state of democracy there, or anywhere, their answer is, oh, well, you see, you have problems in your own country. You see, that there was this accident, there was this problem. Also, you see, you're not perfect. How dare you give us lessons? So, you're not perfect, so we're not perfect, so we do whatever we want. So, it's an extremely slippery slope to say that we should not care about democracy in the other country as long as we have not dealt with our own issue. I mean, I get the idea, but it's an extremely slippery slope, and it's like it's giving way to basically relativism, like saying, "Oh well, everyone is imperfect," or "You're not perfect yourself, so how dare you speak about democracy or claim to be representing diplomacy?" So very, very, very slippery slope there. Because, I mean, even if, and that's true, the EU has problem with democracy, with rule of law, etc. I mean, not only in Poland and Hungary, every country has its own problem, but saying that because you have some problems in your member state, you should not speak about the others, that's pretty hardcore. That's pretty hardcore, and that means that you're not doing anything then from there. So yeah, I will put this one under like potentially dangerous or very slippery slope kind of proposal. Let's see. Reforming the EU. That's exactly why we're there. Institutional reforms. Let's start with the fun stuff. We recommend that changing the name of EU institutions to clarify their functions. For instance, the Council of the European Union could be called the Senate of the European Union. The European Commission could be called the Executive Commission of the European Union. I recommend this because it's currently hard for citizens to understand the role and function of each institution of the European Union. Their name do not reflect their functions. Citizens cannot be expected to distinguish the Council of the European Union, the European Council, the Council of Europe. It is important to avoid overlap. So, they are right. The name of the EU institutions are not the clearest thing in the world, to say the least. That being said, I mean, I understand what they're saying, but I would not say that is as straightforward as that. I mean, it's a question of also of education. I mean, if you look at the UK, for instance, the Commons, that doesn't really tell you what it is. But everyone knows what the Commons are. Why? Because people are educated about their institution, so they know what the Commons and the role of the Common is. So for me, it's more a matter of education than the naming itself, the naming convention itself. Even if they're perfectly right that there is a naming convention problem with the Council of the European Union, the European Council, and the Council of Europe. Clearly, there needs to be name change there to separate them more from each other. So clearly, but the core, you can name them however you want. If people are not properly taught about it, they're not going to understand better the commission when it will be called Executive Commission of the European Union. That doesn't mean anything. And also, the name needs to actually reflect what they are. Like, the council is not a senate. A senate implies a democratically elected or designated assembly. The council is not that. Council represents the shit. I was reading your comment at the same time, Little David, so I lost my track of what I was saying. The council is not an elected body. It's a they see themselves as a diplomatic body, but they represent the member state. They represent governments, which is not the same thing as a senate, unless you are in no. Even if you are in the federal state, you are still elected. You don't represent the government. You represent the people from the federated state. So, council is not the Senate. Council is definitely not the Senate. So, I felt that you're going down a slippery slope when you start by saying that it's an issue of education. Haha. I mean, I'm not saying that it's the EU that should make the education. It's the member state, or everyone should be educated properly about this. But yeah, main thing. All that to say that changing the name won't solve everything. It's useful, at least for the bunch of councils. On this, I'm definitely on board. We need to change the name of the different councils. I'm completely on board with that. Changing the council into senate. Careful what you mean. Careful what you're doing, because then you're giving the wrong idea. Unless you change what the council is, you would give wrong assumptions to people about what the Senate/Council actually is when it does. So careful about that. But otherwise, fine. That's nothing problematic there. At least definitely worth a debate. We recommend adopting a new law for the European Parliament to harmonize electoral conditions, voting age, election date requirements for electoral district, candidate, political parties, and financing. European citizens should have the right to vote for different European Union level parties that each consists of candidates from multiple member states. Okay, during a sufficient transition date, citizens could vote for both national and transnational parties. Okay, we recommend this because European Union needs to build a sense of unity, which could be achieved by a truly unified election of the European Parliament. This common election will all accountable to the members of the European Parliament and to focus the election campaign on shared European topics. So, this entire thing is about the transnational vote in the European election. I will have less memes possibilities if the name changes. Well, there's always a potential. I mean, if they rename the council into the Senate, I'm sure we can go full Roman Empire on that. There's always a possibility to do things. There's always possibilities to do things. Anyway, going back on this, so election law for the European Parliament. There is already some election. There is an election law, at least when it comes to the European Parliament election. Like, for instance, I think the voting age for the European election is set. European election voting age. National rules. Okay, perfect. We have everything there. So yeah, currently member states have the voting date is set according to the national practice. So for a bunch of countries, it's on Sundays. For other, it's on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday. So depends on what member state are doing. On the voting methods, again, that depends of the national law. So you can see here, it's pretty useful actually as a thing there. Minimum age of candidates. So that's the minimum age of candidates. Okay, so number 25. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. In Italy and that's Greece, you need to be at least 25 to be in a candidate to the European elections. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Voting system, election days, constituency, electoral threshold, minimum age of candidate. But I think 18 years old, it's pretty much everywhere in the EU, the voting age. Let's see. Age. Electoral procedure. Legal basis, common rules, blah blah blah. Okay. Threshold protection. Yeah, double national accreditation. Okay. With duty of Lisbon, right to vote and to stand as a candidate to qualify fundamental right status. Fine. Common provision in force. Right to national vote. Okay, so that's everyone is a vote to stand as a candidate. System. So voilà. What is harmonized is there must be proportional representation in the use of either list system or single transfer of vote system. Okay. In addition to the voluntary minimum threshold for the allocation of up to 5% of valid vote cast national, the recent amendment, okay. Obligatory minimum threshold between 2 and 5% for constituencies with more than 35 seats in the member state where the list system is used. Okay. Blah blah blah, incompatibilities, okay. Arrangement subject to national provision. All member states must use a system based on proportional representation. Okay, that's repeating. Currently, the following member states apply threshold. Okay. So depending on when does that date? What's the date of the document? 2021. So yeah, in this country you need to do at least 5% to be elected. I mean to have elected officials. Okay, constitution entitlement vote. Ah, okay, I didn't know that. Voting age is 18 in all member states except Austria and Malta, where it's 16, and Greece, where it's 17. Okay, that I didn't know that there was already younger age vote in some countries. Okay, oh, interesting. Which has then effect in the structure of the uh, of the vote, because I mean obviously younger age vote favors some parties compared to other. Okay, oh, interesting. So I thought that it was already de facto harmonized, that everyone who had to vote could only vote from 18, but no. Okay, interesting. So going back there, adopting election law common to all member states. Okay, fine. That's doable. That's not an issue. I mean, that's not an issue. You will have political debates on that, but that's not like there is not a red flag, an absolute red flag, or whatever. And then you have the entire debate about the transnational voting list. So how does it work? Is the problem that is currently under the European election is that you're voting for lists of candidates from your respective national parties. So let's say in France, so you're gonna have a list from En Marche. You're gonna have a list from the Socialist Party, from the France Insoumise, from Renaissance. It's En Marche, but yeah, every national party will have its own list, and the issue is that then the debate occurs only on national ground, meaning that they're not really going to argue a lot about or debate a lot because of European politics. They're going to vote and argue because of national politics. So in the debate itself, like you will not vote for this party because you don't like it at national level, not because of what they say or don't say at European level. So to encourage a more European vote itself, one system that is being proposed is the transnational list, meaning that you would have in parallel to the national list, so you would still have the list from Renaissance, from Socialist Party, Communist Party, etc., and then you would have an extra list where you would have 27 candidates from all around Europe. One for each party. That way, you would have, in fact, in the end, to vote two times. You would vote for one. You would put one vote for the national party that you want, and then one vote for the European party that you want. So you have one list for the EPP, one list for Renew, one list for the Greens, etc., etc. Icarus appears when transnational party is pronounced. Yeah, indeed. Icarus, I'm sure he has like an AI, like when the AI detects me saying transnational list, federalism, that sort of thing, he receives an alert, and so he connects to the stream. So yeah, that's one of the big debates. There was an attempt to try to put that forward during the last election in 2019, but it was rejected by the council. Council said, no, we don't want this now. Maybe we'll do this for 2020, the 2024 election. The parliament adopted a report this year in which it was proposing to put the transnational list again for the 2024 election. But yeah, there is a big fight already between the parliament and the council on this, mainly because the council does not want that, because that means to an extent that they're losing power, and like it's like a bit like the Spitzenkandidat system, like so that that used to be working, that only applied once, but the Spitzenkandidat is the system under which the leader of the each party, European party, for the European election, nominates an official candidate for the presidency of the European Commission, and the party that wins the election, so the one that gathers the most vote, that constitutes a majority, then their candidates that they nominated previously must become the president of the commission. It's not up for debate to the council So that's how we had in 2014 Jean-Claude Juncker, because the EPP had nominated elected internally Jean-Claude Juncker as their candidate. So for the elections, like everyone was able to say if they wanted, well, you vote for us, but if you vote for us, that means that ultimately you would have Jean-Claude Juncker as president of the commission, you would have for the EPP, Martin Schulz for the SD, I think it was Tsipras for the for the far left, etc., etc. So that worked in 2014. Juncker became the president of the commission, and the council reluctantly accepted because otherwise, before that, they were deciding themselves who was going to be the president. And then in 2019, they decided not to do it. They killed the system, and instead of nominating the candidate of the EPP, which was supposed to be Manfred Weber, so who was back then the president of the he's still the president of the EPP group. They nominated Ursula von der Leyen, an EPP, but not the one that the EPP group voted for. All the Spitzenkandidaten have a lot of enemies in council. I mean, generally speaking, the Spitzenkandidat system is a struggle between the parliament and the council, because it determines who the commission answers to. So back when it was Juncker was there because the parliament decided he was going in there, because the EPP voted for him, and then there was campaign around his name. So he was owing his position more to the parliament than to the council to an extent. While under von der Leyen, that's the contrary. She owes a job to the council only, to Macron's mostly. So that's who she is. Let's say. Loyal to, and you can see that. I mean, von der Leyen obeys the council much more than she obeys or much more obey might not be the right word, but she's following much more closely what the council wants rather than what the parliament wants. While Juncker was Juncker, so there's also the question of personality, but Juncker never hesitated to bash the council because he didn't owe them anything, or not much. So that's part of the power struggle between the parliament and the council around the commission and around this thing, because it determines, or it plays a role into who has influence and power in there. Anyway, moving on this. So maybe in 2024 we will have the transnational voting list. Wait and see. It will depend on the council as usual. Decision making. We recommend to create an online platform where citizens can find and request fact-checked information. The platform should be clearly associated with EU institutions, should be structured by topics, and should be easily accessible, including by your telephone hotline. Citizens should be able to ask critical questions to expert academic journalists and get factual answers with sources. Free access to factual information is of highest value for our society, so as citizens are well informed and protected against fake news and disinformation, we need a credible and independent source of information that is not influenced by political, economic, and national interest. Moreover, the platform could establish a bridge, direct relationship between EU citizens and the EU. This more or less already exists. What's the name already of this hotline? Is it Europe Direct? I think. Europe Direct. Tell me. So if I'm not mistaken, English. Where there is something already existing to do that. Like there is literally an hotline. You can send you can send your questions. Go away. Or you can send your questions directly to the EU and they give you information and all that. So I would say that it does exist. Contact EU. Okay. English. There. So it is indeed Europe Direct. So you can call them, you can write to them. They have offices, so you can go to their offices, and you can ask, you can make complaints, you can ask stuff. So pretty much you can already more or less do that. The only thing that it doesn't do, or the main thing that it doesn't do is that you will not be dealing with having answers from academics or journalists. It will be answers from EU employees, not academics or journalists or experts. But they will answer your question. They will give you sources and all that. So yeah, I will put that under like already existing or like improving something that exists already. Okay. We recommend that there should be an EU-wide referendum in exceptional cases on extremely important matters to all European citizens. Referendum should be triggered by the European Parliament and should be legally binding. There should be more direct influence of EU citizens on important decisions on EU-wide matters. However, referendum should only be held in exceptional circumstances because of the cost is too high and to hold them regularly. Okay. We are aware that discrimination might require a treaty change and the adaptation of national constitution. Indeed. I mean, on that, I don't have anything to say. I mean, the Rosemary also gets non flashback of the last referendum. Indeed, indeed. I mean, any member state gets flashback about referendums these days about the EU. But yeah, I mean, at least they're aware that it requires treaty changes and national constitutions changes, because normally referendums are only something that national governments can do, not EU one. Beyond that, I'm trying to think what else I could say. I mean, in terms of language, I don't see an issue there, as long as you agree on the question, then you just translate the question. It's a question of the campaigning, but you can rely on national parties and EU parties to do campaigning. So, okay, I don't have an issue particularly there, especially since they're saying that it should be very limited, because it can't be like every now whenever the parliament is not happy, they do a referendum. It has to be very exceptional circumstances. But yeah, okay. EU referendum, fine by me. Nothing to dunk on or anything there. We recommend creating a multifunctional digital platform where citizens can vote in online elections and poll. Citizens should be able to give their reasoning behind their vote on important issue and legislative proposal coming from European institutions. The platform should be secure, widely accessible, and highly visible to each and every citizens. The objective of the platform is to increase participation in European politics and facilitate citizen access to consultation and voting processes. Existing tools and processes are not visible enough, and that's why we need a new integrated tool for these different functions. More perspective leads to better decision, more trust among European citizens, and to better functioning of the European Union overall. Yeah, I mean, what do they mean online elections and polls? I mean, a poll, okay, that's, are you in favor, what do you think of this, this, and this? Okay, fine. But an online elections, what do they mean by that? I mean, I don't get what they want to do with online online elections for what, for who, what conditions, on what. Like, is it that are they saying, okay, I want this for this legislation or whatever? But I mean, this is basically giving let's say legal power to change.org. I mean, whenever people are not happy, they're going to say, oh, we like this or we don't like this, and that makes it very sensitive to lobbying as well, one way or another. Citizen initiative, yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Yeah, I'm because yeah, you're right. You have the citizen initiatives, the ICE, which are very much imperfect because you have a lot of conditions to fulfill to be able to put forward a recommendation. But still, you're just putting forward a recommendation. It's not like a platform where you vote on things or you do polls. As for the Conference on the Future of Europe, I mean, again, the problem. The problem here is this: like, existing processes are not visible enough, so we need a new one. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it will necessarily be more visible than the previous one. I mean, the Conference on the Future of Europe platform was designed specifically for that, and I mean, we remember what we did when we did the stream on this and on the proposals that came on it. More than half of the proposals were proposals from lobbies and not from citizens. So yeah, I mean, again, nice idea, but I mean, the fact that people see this platform and participate to this platform is not something that you decree. Like, you don't decide, okay, people, you're going to go on this platform and know about this platform. Okay, that's that's not something that you snap your finger and it happens. Kind of sounds like grassroots folks want the institutions at the top to do the grassroots platforming for them. Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. Because I mean, giving the opinion on legislation, okay, but I mean, to who, for what purpose? I mean, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird what they want to do. But okay, why not? 20. We recommend that the voting system in the EU institutions should be reassessed, focusing on the issue of unanimous voting. Voting weight should be calculated fairly so that small countries interested are protected. Unanimous voting process of significant challenge to decision making in the EU. The large number of member states make it difficult to reach agreement. If necessary, European treaty should be changed to address the issue of unanimity. So, since the Lisbon Treaty, the normal procedure, so for the wide majority of topics, you are going to have what is, at least in the council, so here what they're talking to is about the voting rules in the council, so the institution representing the member state. By default, since the Treaty of Lisbon, most decisions are taken by qualified majority, meaning that you don't need unanimity, you need to have 55% of the member states, so currently 15 countries, representing 65% of the population to have let's say to vote for something, which is already doing that. I mean, voting weight should be calculated fairly so that small countries' interests are protected. Yes, and so that means that to avoid that Luxembourg represents 0.1% of the vote, and it's already the case, I think. Council vote share voting system councilium. I refuse. Voting calculator. Okay. So here you can see what they represent. Oh, that's cool. You can make simulations there. Pretty cool as do. So let's say that. Okay, we're gonna play. Ladia, so 0.42 of the population. So does it? Okay, so it does reflect. It's already like 0.14. Okay, so it's really by the proportion of the population that are represented there. So meaning that it gives, of course, an advantage. But the way it's designed, the way the voting is designed, already includes safeguards for member states on both sides, because it's a double majority system, like I mentioned. On the one hand, you need to have 15 member states. So that's already a protection for smaller member states, because that avoids that, for instance, let's say that Let's put everyone negative except France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Poland. Up, right, Poland. Yeah. There. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries, and they represent themselves almost 70% of the population. But if they were just them voting for something, they represent only 6 countries, meaning that you don't have a qualified majority, because even if they represent a wide majority of the EU population, they're not enough as individual member states. So this is to protect the first rule that you need to require like 15 member states to adopt something is a protection designed to protect the small countries, because that makes sure that Cyprus, with its 0.2% of population, really does have a say and has weight in the vote in the council. And on the other end, if you do the exact opposite, I'm not going to change everything. Let's say there, let's say that you have 21. You can reverse on the number. Let's say you have 21 member states that want something, and only 6 don't want it. So France, Germany, etc., the big 6. But since these 21 represent only 31% or 32% of the EU population, doesn't pass, because again, it's protecting the interests of the big member state, because, well, they represent a big share of the EU population. So you already have this system in the council to protect the interests of both the big member state and the small member state without unanimity. In the parliament, it also exists to an extent, but not on the voting right, because one vote is one vote in parliament, but on the number of MEPs that each country has. Because more or less the number of MEPs, not all countries do not have the same number of MEPs. It goes from 6 to 90 something. And this number is decided according to the population, in proportion to the population. So Germany has the biggest number of MEPs because it is the biggest member state. But that doesn't mean that Estonia has a third of an MEP. What are you doing? Only has a third of an MEP. No. But the rules say that whatever the size of your country, whatever the size of your population, you cannot have less than 6 MEPs. No matter your population. So Estonia, Cyprus, and Luxembourg, they have 6 MEPs no matter what. Because that's the way to protect and ensure that they are properly represented. They have 6 MEPs. And generally speaking, in the parliament, it is considered that big member states are less represented than smaller one, because one Estonian MEP is going to represent much less citizens than a French MEP, because of the difference of population. So it's not a proportional system. But all that to say that in both institutions, whether council and parliament, you have rules to ensure that the interests of small member states are not threatened. And yeah, then it's the question of the unanimous vote on the remaining issues. So, for instance, taxation, budget, foreign affairs, defense, that sort of thing. So the big ones. And should there be unanimity or not? Question mark. The big debate. Closer integration. We recommend the EU to make public investment which lead to the creation of appropriate jobs and to improvement of optimization of quality of life across EU, between member states, and within member states, i.e. at regional level. There is a need to ensure supervision, transparency, and effective communication towards citizens in the implementation of public investment, and to allow citizens to track the entire process of investment into quality of life, include education, health, housing, physical infrastructure, care for the elderly and people with disabilities, taking into account the needs of every member state. Additional investment should strive to establish a good balance between appropriate work and personal life in order to allow a healthy lifestyle. This because blah 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 blah. Although some of the mechanisms are already in place, we feel there is still room for further improvement. Yeah, indeed. I mean, making public investment that's which lead to the creation of appropriate job. I mean, that's all the EU funds basically. Improving our, I mean, this is the EU budget basically. That's what they want is the EU budget, pretty much. There is a need to ensure supervision, transparency, and effective communication towards the implementation of public investment. They want the European Commission. And to allow citizens to track the entire process of investment. Okay, that's, I don't know if it exists beyond like the reporting tools that and the auditing tools that exist. Blah blah blah. So okay, they want to reinforce what already exists. Let's say it like that. They want an ambitious budget. Let's phrase it like this. Okay, nothing special to say because it's like so wide. Well, even if they suggest it, if it is good that they mention it. Yeah. Okay, 22. Oh, sorry. We recommend establishing a common basis according to a set of economic indicators on quality of life for all member states, with the same opportunities and everyone being at the same level to reach a common economic structure. What does it mean? Common basis according to a set indicator of all member states with the same opportunity. I don't understand. What do they want to do? They want to revamp GDP and all that? I don't understand. It's important that the establishment of a common basis follows a clear and realistic timeline set by institution at the recommendation of experts. Experts should also be consulted on how such a common economic structure should look like. It is important that indicators defining the common basis are further defined with the help of experts. If we have a just EU, we'll have a more united Europe. To be just, we need to offer equal opportunities and a common basis to all of the EU. Common economic structure can only be reached once a common... What is a common basis? What the hell does that mean? I have auditing tools. We have auditing tools at home. For auditing tools at home, checking VDS bin for burner phones. Yeah. Yeah, on the indicator is the exhibit. What does it mean? Establishing a common basis. What is a common basis? I don't get it. I don't understand what they want. I'm reading the thing, but it doesn't help me understand. Okay. This, I genuinely have no clue what they want. They want a just and fair EU and a just economy. Okay, fine. I don't get what they're asking. No idea. They want experts to advise on how to do something I have no idea about. But okay, why not? Moving on. We recommend taxing big corporation income from big corporation to contribute to public investment and to use the taxation to invest into education development of each country, R&D, scholarship, Erasmus, etc. It is important to focus on eliminating the existence of tax haven in the EU, so something that we already discussed mostly during the last stream for the other panel. So yeah, they want taxation of big corporations. To an extent, there is already work in progress, but we have the problems that we discussed earlier about the unanimity. So that will require some work on the treaties to be achievable. But yeah, otherwise, taxing the big companies and to strengthen the EU budget. Building a European identity. Education and democracy. We recommend that education on democracy in the European Union should strive to improve and achieve a minimum standard of knowledge across all member states. This education should include, but not be confined to, democratic processes and general information on the EU, which should be taught in all member states. This education should be further enriched by a set of different concepts, teaching the democratic process, which should be engaging and age appropriate. This recommendation and the reason we justify it are important because if implemented, it would lead towards a more harmonious and democratic life, blah blah blah. Justification are as follows. Young people would be educated in democratic processes. The education should limit populism and disinformation in public debate, lead to less discrimination, and finally educate and involve citizens in democracy beyond their duty to vote. That's pretty standard. I mean, education of democracy. That's age appropriate. I imagine that they mean that you don't go into very big details on the institutional settings. You adapt according to the age. I'm not. That does not shock me particularly. The EU is not safe for work. Well, to an extent, you could argue that the EU is not safe for work. Huh? People could look at you weirdly if you start reading out loud the Treaty of Lisbon, or Maastricht, or something else. You're surprised to hear the Conference of Europe talk about nation-building stuff. European history is 18+. Well, it's a very 18+ topic. I mean, I think people agree on what European history how European history should be taught. Yeah, you're gonna end up with blood on the walls, so that's gonna be definitely 18+ there. And you expect my YouTube debut to be I read the entire. This is what I did not learn. Yeah, my YouTube debut are not anywhere near, because I would need to learn a bunch of stuff, how to do video editing to start with, and that would require an amount of work and time that I unfortunately do not have. So unfortunately, I will not do YouTube videos to explain what I'd learned reading the Conference of Europe proposals. I will do streams. I will do Twitter and Discord threads, but YouTube, yeah, at the moment, I doubt it. Difficult to do. But yeah, okay, let's teach people about the EU, democratic processes and all that. Fine by me, no problem. Not a EU, something that the EU itself can do, but shouldn't do necessarily, but definitely on the principle, that's fine. Okay, 25. We recommend that the existing and emerging translation technologies such as artificial intelligence are further developed, improved, and made more accessible so as to reduce language barrier and strengthen common identity and democracy in the European Union. These recommendations, as to reason which justify it, are important because if implemented, it would help to build common European identities. That's funny because here, so it relates to like two other like proposals that we had last time. On the question of language and the role of language to build a European nation, or helping European understand each other. And so we had three different ways. So this one is saying, okay, we need better translation. So we need AI like to make sure that when I speak French, you translate to Icaros in Danish, it translates to Carpas into Spanish, etc., etc. We had one that was, okay, let's just improve multilingualism so that people learn different languages, and so Icaros will speak to me in French, I will speak to Carpas in Spanish, etc., etc. And we had the third way, which was, okay, let's just teach everyone English, and we'll just talk to each other in English, and that's it. English is our own common language. So yeah, interesting how they go around that with three very different approaches to the same idea. Nightbot preview the language of Europe is translation. Nightbot. Language of Europe is translation. One thing is that I'm not even sure. Language on Europe, c'est Umberto Eco from 1993. Strike new from Italian writer Umberto Eco from 1993. And I'm not even sure if it's in my quote list. Actually, I would have to check this. If it is, because otherwise it does. It is eligible to the quote list that I haven't completed in a while. Oh no, come on, the Esperanto. So far we dodged the Esperanto. Please please come from the future Europe. Do not bring up Esperanto, otherwise I will be forced to dunk, but very meanly. I mean, honestly, if there is Esperanto in this, I give up. I simply give up on the whole process. I'm like, no, I'm done. I've enough. I had enough. Sorry, just checking a couple of things. Okay, let's move on. 26. We recommend that verifiable information to be made easily accessible in understandable terms to citizens via mobile device application in order to improve transparency, public deliberation, and democracy. This app could disseminate information regarding, for instance, legislation discussion within the EU, treaty changes, etc. Discrimination, the reasons which justify it are important because if implemented, it would facilitate communication in terms of more informed deliberation between citizens and the respective member state via an app, which could have many different functions. This app should be designed to be relevant to all, as well as to stimulate further curiosity and make technical information more accessible and engaging. This app should be understood as a supplementary source, which disseminates information officially verified directly by the EU to improve trust, transparency, and public debate, and help to build a common identity. Yeah, TFU, the mobile edition. I mean, the EU, but it's an app. Which is not a bad idea. I'm not dunking on it. I mean, I don't know how feasible it would be, but yeah, why not? Why not? I don't even know. I mean, do the institution have apps? Let me check on my phone. Let's see. European Parliament. Does the Parliament have an app? Let's see. Citizens app. Service de recherche du PE. Okay, there's a couple of there's a few a few apps there actually. The council has its app. Huh. Okay, let's see. Citizens app. Oh, of course I can't. Oh, can I? Let's see. Google Play. Let's see. Can I bring this up? Yes, I can. Let's see. Audio, ebook, film, application. Plus. Citizens app. So what is the Citizens app? Okay. Okay, it's the European Parliament. Can I change the language? No. So I can't put it in English. Disappointment. Let's see. There must be something about language in there. Oh, that's still. Okay, sorry. You'll have to stick with French for the time being, I'm afraid. You have a few apps that are for institution people, with one exception, and that's the initiative apps. Council app is meant to be installed 2017. Oh yeah. The EU login stuff is a nightmare. I used it because I needed it when I was in Parliament, and when I left Parliament, that's just a nightmare. A pure nightmare to use this thing. So application citizen app present the achievement of European Union. It describes the work in progress, its the objective for the future, and the role played by European Parliament. Allows you to choose and follow the initiative that interests you, ranked by place and by theme. So that sounds like something that they want to do in their citizens app. Okay. EPRS, very much recommend. Very super. They make super interesting stuff. It's all the research service of the parliament. It was built. It was made with the U.S. Congress in mind, because the U.S. Congress has its own research service for members. And they make very, very interesting notes all the time. So it's if you have time, if you're interested in stuff, I very much recommend the briefing notes of the EPRS. Super, super interesting stuff. That's the youth thing. Reopen EU. What the hell is that? How and where can I travel while staying healthy? Reopen EU provides information on the various national restrictions in place. Ah, okay, it's the it's the COVID app. Let's say. Okay. Up. Okay. Solidarity Corp. Okay. Adult Learning. Council. What do they do? Okay, all the information. Going abroad. Council voting calculator. EU login. Station Europe. I have no idea what it is. The creativity of the region has its app. They're cute. Connect yourself to 1 million local elected official in Europe and receive the last news from the organ of the EU representing the cities and European region. I rate it 5 stars. I don't need to watch it. I put it 5 stars directly. It will send us live notification about the information, the events, and the opinions of the core on the themes that interest you. Going from one meeting to another, save your favorite elements and share the contents through social media and other channels. You'll find information on members and subsidiary of the Committee of the Regions, include the president, the first vice president, and the president of political groups and committees. Discover which region they represent. Read all the opinions that they have, which allow to influence the process. If you go on the page, what file influenced the EU decision process, you will have a 404 error. Not found. File not found. No influence found. See, it's easy to make me happy. Just allow me to dunk on the on the Committee of the Regions. That's so cute. Member of the Committee of the Region, delegation and party and stakeholders can now localize all the buildings of the Committee of the Region and all other institutions. Okay, that's mostly about events, blah blah blah. That's very cute. I mean, they're trying. City in the region must lead the way towards LGBTQ, blah blah blah. Okay, anything else you? Plenary sessions. Okay, it doesn't say what we're on, but okay. I mean, it's not ugly looking, at least. They have a big. I think the building of the Committee of the Region. I never set foot in it. I don't think I ever do. Maybe once. The Committee of the Human Region is Federation happens. Who's laughing now? Even if the regionalist federation happens, I'm pretty sure that they would just replace the European Parliament and the Committee of the Region would be like, well, you don't exist anymore. Committee of the Regions. I would like to say never change, but no, that's a lie. YouTube debut unedited loitering of the committee. I get first YouTube debut. I get lost in the Committee of the Region building. But yeah, there is actually quite a few European apps. So kudos. Of course, the CJU. Threat report. European agencies for railway as an app. What the hell? This app provides an overview of the main elements constituting a railway safety management system, including a brief description about the meaning. It also contains management's maturity model tool, which allows the user to evaluate how effective the SMS is by scoring. Seriously? They made an app about something like that. I mean, it screams the kind of like the management saying, "Oh, we need an app. We need an app. I don't know what we are gonna do, but we need an app." This will be good leadership, leading by example. Good leaders set the tone. Elle est très bonne. La blanquette est bonne. Ah, that's cute. That's very cute. European Union Agency for Railway. Can we see how many downloads there were of this? More than 1,000. Let's compare with the Committee of the Region. Where are you, Committee of the Region? There you go. 500. Even the agency on railway had more download than the Committee of Regions. Come on. Oh no. Poor Committee of the Regions. Oh. Citizen app. 50k plus, okay. EPRs that deserve to have many downloads. 5,000 plus, okay. Cancel. 10k, okay. Listen, you people love train. We should build this European identity with rail nationalism. Indeed. Actually, just realized the Parliament itself does not have. What's that? Committee Europe? Oh, it's back at the core. Sorry. Commission does not have an app. Not as far as I can see. Parliament does not have an app, which is too bad. Should have one. And that's it. That was a good one. That makes me happy. That makes me happy. I have a good evening. I was able to dunk on the Committee of Regions. That's a good evening. I can check. This one. Thank you to the Conference of Future of Europe. Without it, I would not have checked the apps available for about the European Union. Actually, European Union, because I checked European Parliament, but the same. Yeah, no changes. There's no additional app. Thank you. I really noticed the trains. Okay, let's get back on track. So yeah, they want an app about the EU, which is fine. European values and identity. Ooh, that's gonna be spicy, this one. Yeah, pun not intended. Sorry. We recommend that the EU creates a special fund for online and offline interaction. exchange program panels meeting of both short and longer duration between EU citizens in order to strengthen the European identity. The CRISPAN, yeah, I need to change the CRISPAN. The participants should be representative of the society from within EU that will include targeted group based on various criteria, i.e. demographic, social, economic, and occupation criteria. The goal is for this fund. It's a special fund, sorry. This fund needs to be clearly specified in order to stimulate European identity, and the funds need to be evaluated on a regular basis. This because of the kind of inspiration enable citizens to share ideas, and longer exchange enables them to understand the culture and to share experiences, including professional practices. EU fund is needed because blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay. No, not much to add on this. They want a fund. Online and offline interaction, exchange program. I mean, exchange programs. It's Erasmus panels meeting. On this, there used to be. I don't know if it's still the same name. There was the Europe for Citizens program. That does pretty much this. Okay, why not? 28. We recommend that the EU invest in countering disinformation swiftly by supporting existing organization initiatives, so that the Code of Practice on Disinformation and the European Digital Media Observatory, and similar initiative in the member states. So they want the EU to support things that it already did. Why not? Why not? Probably revolutionary. The countermeasure could include fact-checking, creating awareness about disinformation, providing easily accessible statistics, appropriate sanctioning those who spread disinformation based on a legal framework, and tackling the sources of disinformation. The core has reviews on Google Maps. I want to click. I really want to click, but I know I think I'm gonna go down. Oh fuck it! I'm clicking. The staff is not very kind. They also work very slowly. Oh, I love it. I love it. Ah, like, in a way, it's like all roads leads back to Rome. Here, all stream leads back to dunking on the Committee of the Regions. I wish I could say one day I will make a stream about the Committee of the Regions, but I know I will not. I know I will not. I will not have the courage to do that. Anyway, so yeah, countering disinformation, all fine. No, it's not a friend of mine. We did the review, but I think many people share the view. There's a doubt when it comes to our friends in the Committee of the Regions. But yeah, let's work on fighting disinformation. All good on my side. Nothing to add. 29. We recommend to increase the frequency of online and offline interaction between the EU and citizens. Okay, asking citizens directly about EU matters, and by creating user-friendly platform to ensure that every citizen can interact with EU institutions and EU officials. So yeah, they want the platform for the Conference of the Future of Europe to become permanent. Or they want the EU to co-fund my channel. Maybe. Who knows? I support this proposal. And two, in order to ensure that citizens can participate in the EU policy-making process, to voice their opinion and to get feedback, we recommend to create a charter of code of conduct or guidelines for EU officials. What is the code of conduct supposed to do? I mean, to ensure that they get. I mean, I don't get it. Different means of interaction should exist so that every citizen can participate. Okay, on paper, very, very, very good. But again, will people go to these platforms because they exist? Not so sure, but well. Several means of 3GU exist, but they are not known, not effective, and not transparent. There are huge differences in accessibility between countries. More frequent and better quality interaction will lead to a sense of ownership and citizenship. Ugh. MP will never do a committee of the region streams. Do you plan to blackmail me with the clip? That would not be very nice. Don't they already have one when interacting with lobbies, for instance? Yes, there is a code of conduct for this kind of thing, but it's not like here we're talking about interacting with citizens. Not like with like a code of conduct when interacting with lobbyists. Yeah, it exists. It makes sense. At least it exists. I know for sure for the European Commission, Parliament. I don't think it exists. At least not for MEPs and their assistant, but citizens are lobbyists in a way. That's a bold assumption, but I will allow it. I will allow it. In the meantime, Ikaros wants to threaten me. Okay, what do you want in exchange? What do you want in exchange, Ikaros? Don't say a stream about the Committee of the Region. I will not do a Committee of the Region stream. But name your price. Okay, 30. We recommend that European identity and values, rule of law, democracy and solidarity should receive a special place within the migrant integration process. Okay. Possible measures could include creating programs or supporting already existing local programs to encourage social interaction between migrants and EU citizens, or involving companies in the program supporting the integration of migrants. At the same time, similar programs should be initiated in order to create awareness among EU citizens about migration-related issues. Their recommendation is important because social interaction program can support migrants in their new life and non-migrants to have insight in the daily life of migrants. If migrants living in ghettos, there is no possibility to integrate them into society. Blah, blah, blah. Common policy is needed because migrants enter EU territory. They can go to every country within the EU. Yeah, local initiatives should be supported because local government will use the funds more effectively compared to national level. Okay, well, why not? Nothing special to say. You name your price when least expected. Damn it. And lobbyists pretending to be citizens. Actually, I mean, remember when we did the stream about the proposal on the platform for the conference on future of Europe? Like there were a bunch of proposals, or at least reaction to proposals that were made, like proposals that were made by lobby, and then people reacting and commenting on it, say, "Oh, that was a great idea." And we checked a couple of those, and the people reacting to that were actually people employed by that lobby. So, in a way, yeah, that does happen. That does happen. And I remember as well, like receiving when I was in Parliament. Sometimes we would receive like I used to call that spamming campaign, but like when people you get the change.org kind of thing, and also like emailing campaign telling MEPs, oh, you should vote in favor or against this kind of thing, and sometimes etc. And I know sometimes I receive like emails like from people saying, oh, I'm a European citizen and I call you to vote this, but the person writing to me saying I'm a European citizen, actually they were lobbyists. They were lobbyists, so maybe they were writing as European citizens because they believed very much into this. But I remember one time I replied to one of those persons saying, yeah, but you know, you're a lobbyist. I received already your position paper, so no need to write as if you're a regular citizen. I did that back in the days. Oddly enough, I never received an answer from the person. Oddly enough. But well, all that to say that it's not above lobbyists to pretend that they are regular citizens. Far from it. I mean, lobbyists are citizens, but let's see what else. Information about the EU. I feel that there was a lot of things about information about the EU. We recommend that the EU provides more information and news to European citizens. It should use any means that are necessary while respecting freedom and independence of media. It should provide media outlets with resources as well as a broad and reliable information about EU activities and policies. So they want a communication and press service in the institution. The EU should guarantee that the information is broadcasted evenly across all member states by national and European media, and should ensure that member states encourage public broadcasters and public news agencies to cover European affairs. I can't dunk on something saying that MEP dunking on himself while talking about lobbyists. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem dunking on lobbyists. There's a number of practices from lobbyists that I don't approve. Even myself as a lobbyist, I don't see a conflict there. We recommend this because based on our personal experience and based on the data from your environmental, majority of Europeans sorry, are informed through the international media, press, radio, television, and information currently offered in this channel about the EU is very scarce, blah blah blah. So yeah, not enough information about the EU in traditional media. I can only co-sign this. Fine by me to improve the level of information about the EU. That's fine by me. 32. How many are there? Like, I think there's 40 something? 45? I don't know. 39. That's... Wait, where was I? God damn it. I'm lost in my thing. 32, yeah. Not a conflict for sure, but I can laugh about myself. Yeah, I hope I can laugh about myself. We recommend the EU to create and advertise multilingual online forums and offline meetings where citizens can launch discussion with EU representatives, no matter the topic and no matter the geographical scope of the issue raised. Those online forums and offline meetings should have a defined short-term limit in which response to the question are received. All the information about these spaces should be centralized in an integrated official website with different features, such as FAQ, possibility to share ideas, proposal, concerns with other citizens, and with a mechanism to identify the most supported one. In any case, access should be easy and non-bureaucratic language should be used. Yeah, okay. Good luck with this part, because, I mean, EU representatives don't have necessarily the time to spend their time on forums, but okay, why not? Again, it goes back to the idea of having places where there can be discussions, blah blah blah. Sec. Oh, sorry, I was checking something. 32 recommended blah, 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 direct channel between European citizens and European representatives to talk and engage together, blah blah blah. Okay, so they want Mepassistant channel. I am there. 33. We recommend the EU institution and representatives to use a more accessible language and avoid using bureaucratic terms in their communication while at the same time maintaining the quality and expertise of the given information. The EU should also adapt the information it provides to citizens with different communication channels and audience profile, newspaper, television, and social media. The EU should make a special effort to adapt communication to digital media in order to increase its outreach to capacity to young people. Quentin is an all-human person, not just a lobbyist. You can't believe it. Exactly. I'm a human being. I exist. I'm not just a lobbyist. So yeah, I mean, I can't lecture about that. The EU using less bureaucratic terms. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much want to redo entirely the midday briefing to make it palatable for human beings. But yeah, that's fine by me. And communication, digital media, there is improvement on that. There is improvement on that, but yeah, there's always ways to improve this. I should have suggested my channel in the proposal and get us to say in the comments that this is a great idea. I would. So you want me to do exactly what I criticized like 5 minutes ago? Oh well. What's a bit of double standards? What harm could it do? Let's delete the term fish from EU speak. Good one actually. What EU term, like EU jargon, should we get rid of? I'm starting to think about like the level playing field. Level playing field, it's everywhere. Get rid of that word, please. Let's see what else. I'm a lobbyist. I can have double standards. That's fair. That's fair. Stream number 5. I was like, what? It's my 5th stream. No, I'm losing it. You like using level playing field? Ah, well. Everyone has its favorites. I mean, the problem is like level playing field, now it's everywhere. Everything is about level playing field. Anyway, 34. Recommend that independent citizen observers should be present during all EU decision-making processes. Technically, an independent citizen observer, you could argue that it's called an MEP. You elect them. I don't know. MEPs are supposed to represent citizens, so I would say that's already there. There should be a forum or permanent body of citizen representative in order to carry the function of broadcasting relevant and important information to all EU citizens as defined EU citizen. Those citizens would engage with all other European citizens in the spirit of top-down, bottom-up connection, which would further develop the dialogue between citizens and the institution of the EU. They want to invent members of the European Parliament. That's beautiful. What's the word the Commission comes use when they are trying to say we're doing a real thing for real? We're delivering. There is a delivery. The delivering something. I think it's the delivering. The word you're looking for, Gauss. So yeah, they want to invent MEPs. That's beautiful. I dunk, but I mean, that's MEPs. 35. We recommend that the EU reopens the discussions about constitutions of Europe. Icarus will be triggered by that. With a view to create a constitution informed by the citizens of the EU. Citizens should be able to vote in the creation of such a constitution. Okay. This constitution, in order to avoid conflicts with the member state, should prioritize the inclusion of human rights and democracy values. The creation of such a constitution should consider previous efforts that never materialized to a constitution. Okay. Because the constitution would engage young people with politics at the EU level and counteract increasing force of nationalism. Because it would provide a common definition of what is meant by democracy in Europe, good luck with that, and make sure that it is implemented in an equal way amongst all member states. Because EU has shared values regarding democracy and human rights, because this will enable citizens to be included in the decision-making process and allow citizens to identify more as being from the EU, having participated to the process. Fine by me. I mean, again, question of feasibility, but yeah, okay. They want a constitutional process. Fine. And they're directly saying, let's rerun the Lisbon votes. Question: your French side is not triggered by the word constitution? No, I don't have a problem with the word constitution. Not at all. My French side is very much comfortable with the word constitution. I know it would trigger a number. A European constitution will trigger a number of people, but it doesn't trigger me. It may trigger like the jurist in me, but as a French, not. 36. What's my other side? The jurist, for instance. That's one of my many sides. I'm schizophrenic. 36. We recommend that politicians are French are jurists. I know, I have all the best sides. Recommend that politicians are more responsible in representing the citizens that they are elected to represent. Young people in particular are especially alienated from politics and are not taken seriously whenever they are included, but alienation is a universal issue and people of all ages should be engaged more than they currently are. What's the proposal? What's the proposal? We recommend that politicians are more responsible in representing the citizens they are elected to represent. What does that mean? Definition of what democracy is needs to be refreshed. Whoa, good luck. We need to remind ourselves what democracy really is. Democracy is about representing the people. Because young people are fed up with disillusion with politicians who they view as elite, who do not share their views. And this is why people should be included more than they currently are in novel and engaging ways. The education system, then social media, and all other forms of media could carry out this role throughout the life cycle in all languages. I mean, they're fed up because people do not share their view, but if they are elected, I mean, they represent the views they were elected for. I mean, I see what they mean, but again, there is some contradictions, let's say, in all this. Like, in a way, there is a bit of a people who don't agree with us do not are not representative, and so they should not. They're not legitimate. Like, only people representing what we say are legitimate. So it's kind of a weird statement, even if it reflects a real frustration. And 37. Oh, okay, there was more than 37. We recommend that the EU should be closer to citizens in a more assertive way, which means involving the member state in the promotion of citizen participation in the EU. Doesn't mean anything. The EU should promote the use of the mechanism of citizen participation by developing marketing and publicity campaigns. National and local governments should be obligated to be involved in the process. The EU should guarantee the effectiveness of participative democracy platforms. We recommend this because the platform that already exists needs to be made stronger and efficient. Needs to be more feedback to the EU from citizens and vice versa. There is not enough debate within the EU. Okay, I agree. Both between citizens and governments, because the citizens do not engage in submitting petitions, either because they do not know that the process exists or they do not believe in the success of such a petition. I don't get the proposal. I mean, here it's more about venting, but I mean, again, they can do that as part of the conference. But I don't. How do you translate that in concrete terms? A lot of this, the top should proactively make the bottom grassroots work on its behalf stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what do you do with this? Like, you're like, okay, that's cool and all, but even if, again, I mean, it's you can't ask of citizens to always like come up with the perfect solution. They also to voice concerns and all that. I want the kid to shout at his subject asking, "What do you want?" and implementing it. Like, okay, go grassroots, my guy, go do it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the whole issue. Another one that should be deleted, top down, bottom up. Yeah, agreed. Although we don't see that often. 38. We recommend that the EU creates and implement programs for schools about what is being done in the EU in terms of the existing mechanism of participation. These programs should be included in the school curricula about European citizenship and have thick with content adequate to the age. There should be a whole program for adults. There should be lifelong learning programs available to citizens. Blah blah blah. So I would say existing stuff, more or less. I recommend this because it's so important for future of our children. Citizens want to know how to express their voices. Okay, blah blah blah. So okay. I think we were in the section of we want more participation, but we don't know how to do it. But yeah, I mean, not much to comment on this, I'm afraid. Citizen participation. We recommend that the European Union hold citizen assemblies. Ooh. Ooh. We strongly recommend that they are developed through legally binding compulsory law or regulation. The citizen assembly should be held every 12 to 18 months. Participation of the citizens should not be mandatory, but incentivized while organized on the basis of limited mandates. Participants must be selected randomly with representativity criteria, also not represent any organization of any kind, nor being called to participate because of their professional role when being assembly members. If needed, there will be support of experts so that assembly members have enough information for deliberation. Decision making will be in the hands of citizens. The EU must ensure the commitment of petition to citizens' decisions taken in citizen assemblies. In case citizen proposals are ignored or explicitly rejected, the institutions must be accountable for it, justifying the reasons why the decision was made. So they want a European Parliament. They want a Parliament that supplants the Parliament. I mean, it's about direct democracy. That sort of thing. I get a very direct democracy, Greek democracy, like old school Greek direct democracy vibe from this. But yeah, I like the fact like there must be EU institution, including the European Parliament, but the citizen assembly randomly selected are superior to the direct election, direct democracy one. That's one view of democracy, but yeah, it's intense. Current the implementation of citizen assembly because we want that citizens feel closer to EU institutions. I mean, they feel closer to they don't feel closer to institutions. They give orders to EU institutions. That's the difference. And they contribute directly to decision making end to end with politicians. They don't. They're not doing things end to end to politicians. They're giving orders to politicians. That's a different thing. Increasing the feeling of belonging and direct efficacy. Furthermore, we want political parties and electoral programs to be accountable to citizens. Because every citizens are knowledgeable in all topics. Well, they do say that they could be experts. And that was the last one, 39. And let's see what they rejected. So, rejected recommendations. We recommend the EU to actively include minorities in policy making regarding key aspects of state institutions, police and NGOs. We recommend the EU should establish an advisory board directly elected by minorities. Oh, wow. The composition should be predominantly by minority representative with NGO also present. It should have a formative role in training civil servants to care about for the needs of minorities. This body should have a veto rights on minority issues. Indeed, that's a bit intense. That's a bit intense. We recommend establishing an agency for monitoring audiovisual media, print and digital media at the European level. Agency should monitor that national media outlets follow impartial and project process in the production of their content. To prevent disinformation, agency should provide a scoring system on the reliability of national media outlets. This scoring system should be easy to understand. Yeah, again, bold. The Ministry of Truth returns. Yeah, but at least they rejected this one. Even if you could argue that the Citizen Assembly is borderline Ministry of Truth, but citizen participation. We recommend that there should be a citizen representative body created to discuss and inform decision making in a significant way whenever there is an issue being decided upon at EU level which is of major significance to European citizens, as decided by citizens potentially via survey. This should be a diverse group of approximately 100 citizens for all EU countries with equal representation from each country. There should be a revolving group where members are periodically changed. So this is, let's say, the very light... Okay, let's see. Because it is important to avoid issues such as corruption that may arise from a permanent representative body, and that is vital, such as body has equal representation for continue to avoid unfair decision-making power. So it feels like let's say a smaller version to the citizen assembly that they propose here, which is much more hardcore. This one is hardcore, clearly hardcore. But yeah, we reached the end. We reached the end. We survived. We survived. So, what did you think? Did I dunk too much? Apart from the committee of the region, dunking the committee of region is allowed. It's allowed because it was a digression. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that again, like, are. I mean, this one is intense, to say the very least. I dunk less than last time. Good. Good. That means I'm improving. Or that the proposal were better. Maybe a bit of both, but good. Okay, well, let's see if I have anything else. So the next one, which one will it be? It was a lot of grassroots platforming, which is meta. Yeah. Let me check which one. The third one will be about climate change, environment, and health. So I'm sure, I have a doubt that you're gonna love this one, Little Miss Derry. I'm sure you will love this one. And when I will do it, let me check my agenda very quickly because I've provisionally put it in my schedule. We're in April. That would be, for now, I put it on next week, next Thursday. We would do the third panel. With the aim to finish everything before the 9th of May. Because 9th of May, there is the final event of the Conference of Future of Europe, where they will pretty much conclude the whole process, and it will be a happy family on Schumann Day, and also it's going to be the release of season 2 of Parliament, the TV show. And I'm looking now. I'm looking at the possibility to do watch party, to comment watching all together the first season of the show, and I would comment it live. I need to watch how it works. I know that on Twitch there is a system for watch parties, but like it relies on Amazon Prime. Like you people, like for instance, you would only be able to watch with me the thing if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. Why? Because that means that you paid already for the content or something like that. But I need to look into it. But that would be fun to do like to binge watch the first season, or as much as the first season as possible, to finally comment it, because I mean, I'm not going to do a YouTube video about that. But yeah, I have a couple of weeks to see how to do that. I will let you know. I also need to decide whether I do that in English or in French, because the TV show is French, so mostly in French. So I need to think about how to do the thing, and I will probably ask you on Discord and all that. Let's see. Is the grassroots platform we just made for you? I'm going to promote the AKV. We call it the Conference of Future of Europe. We can suggest things. Yeah, you're right. It's a bit meta. Even if the commission already said that they were thinking of making like the digital platform more of a permanent, the concept of consulting citizens, etc. That in that way more frequent. Not necessarily like make the Conference of Future of Europe like permanent, but they said they were open to look at improve at making something more structural, as they say, something more regular. Anyway, well, I'm not going to prolong your pain any longer, so I hope that you enjoyed tonight's content. As usual, you can, of course, follow the channel on the on Twitch. You can follow me on the other. Why can't you subscribe to the channel? Because I was part of the affiliate program. I am not right now because I wanted to test something, and I made the request to join back. So I think in a couple of days, you would be able to subscribe. But alternatively, if you can't subscribe, you can toss a coin to a streamer on Coffee. So in the meantime, but subscription should be back by the end of the week. Basically, I made the process and all that, but I will explain the whole story maybe on Sunday when we have time or something like that. But subscription will be back. In the meantime, you have Coffee. The links is there, and I'm actually going to post the bloody link with all the Discord and all the information. And the next time I see you will be on Sunday because I'm not in Brussels from Thursday. So yeah, Sunday at 6, probably at 6 and 8. I don't know yet if I'm going to do the English one at 6 or 8, but I will let you know. I will let you know on Discord and all that. So go on Discord, go on Twitter, you have all the information. And on this note, well, I wish you all a good evening, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.